Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, Season 1, Episode 7. It's called The Other Side. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So I thought this was an interesting episode. I thought this was kind of the perfect kind of break in the season.
Yeah, it was a smart answer to the ending of the last episode.
Yeah, because it ended with the... Because obviously the last episode ended with her getting the chance to write this note. So she had that big great scene where she said everything truthfully, and then this guy said, "Oh, your husband's alive," and handed her a pad, write something. So
Yeah, and obviously there was the possibility that he was lying.
yeah, that's a possibility. Although I mean, if he was lying, it was very specific. Like, why did he make a point of knowing this information to trick her? Perhaps.
Obviously it kind of moot at this point, but in my head, I'd guess that stuff would be, there'd be records. It was a marriage. It was, it
Oh,
was, it
sure.
wasn't anything personal that he told her. It was just names and
That's
places, which are all, there are records of that, assuming they weren't destroyed. But
yeah.
if you wanted to trick someone,
I think last episode was very emotional from a character point of view because it was about her getting to a breaking point and finally like just saying all this stuff out loud.
yeah,
Whereas this episode, well, it did some stuff for Luke's character. It was more of a plot and mythology episode where,
yeah, it told us a lot just about the state of the world, the larger world.
yeah, because we learned a lot more about like his side of it, like the present day, if you will, in this episode is immediately after what we see in the first flashback at the start of the season, which is when June. I was going to say it off red, and I was no, I can't say off red. It's not right to say off red. I had to think about June, but her and Hannah run off. But we stay with him. We stay with him this time, and we see
Yeah.
where the gunshots come from and what happened and how he get picked up. And it actually has a proper like sci-fi dystopian feel where he's like wandering through this town that's desolate and covered in snow. And again, if you watched the Fargo review, I was complaining that the snow was teasing me because it's really warm here today, and I was wanting the snow. I was wanting it badly. Uh,
Yeah. Do you know what? That very first scene where we see him get shot.
yeah.
At first, I was wondering, are we going to see him bleed out and they confirm that he is dead? Because
Mm,
obviously, in my head, I was still wondering if the thing from last episode was a trick, and then it was going to flash forward to the all the awful
yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
that we normally get.
Yeah, no, I can see that being a thought. I didn't. I think I just had a feeling that this was going to be like his episode.
Yeah. As soon as it
Yeah,
continued, I was like, okay, I get it. This is it.
we're never cutting back to
Yeah. Yeah.
Offred in this episode. It's not happening. Uh, with the one small exception, but it's perfect when it does cut to her because it's when he finally knows she's
It's when
alive.
the stories finally
Yeah,
overlap again.
yeah, but it's also when he knows she's alive. So it's when we finally because we don't other than when she's in like his flashbacks in this episode, we
Yeah.
never hear her voice until he knows she's alive, and that's when we get to see her what she looks like now, and we get to hear her voice. It was really perfect the way they executed that. But no, so he goes through the snowy town. It's in Boston, and he goes to the same coffee shop that we've seen the girls go into
Yes.
a couple of episodes ago in one of their flashbacks, which where they got called sluts by the guy behind the counter.
Yeah.
Um, and that was a nice touch, I thought. Seeing that even this place, it's run down now. Like, this is how bad things
Yeah,
have
yeah,
gone.
because we saw it at its normalcy, and now we see it in
Yeah.
this.
I mean, obviously the people in it were starting to change because obviously that encounter with the guy, but
But everything still looked on the surface looked normal.
yeah, yeah. But I guess that itself is kind of a message for like, things on the surface still look normal for a while until
Yeah,
because even in the flashback, because the flashbacks, of course, are kind of the sort of the end of their journey before all this started, where they're finally trying to leave, and it links up with the opening flashback where he gets shot,
yeah,
and it's kind of like that final attempt where, and they talk about how we should have left when Moira did. We should have tried to run before now,
yeah,
and now it's a struggle. Now they have to hide in the in the boot in the car trunk, and there's that great moment where that entire scene takes place inside the boot with them, and we never see, we just hear things. So at that point where they stop, because it's actually like a sweet moment where they try to comfort each other, and they're
yeah,
having some nice moments, and then they stop and they hear the footsteps, and it's like really tense. Direction was on point as well. One of the constant themes I was noticing, actually, the camera work with Luke was it kept having him low down in the frame with a lot of headroom. In fact, sometimes when he was in the forest, just before he finds the backpack and stuff
yeah,
to confirm that they've been taken, when he gets back out there. Like at times, like his chin was cut off at the bottom of the frame, and the camera was kind of, and it was the idea that he was barely keeping above sea level, kind of thing.
Yeah. He was just treading water, basically.
Yeah, it was barely keeping his head above water. It was it's arguably not that subtle, but it worked really well because he is struggling. The direction's been on point throughout the entire show, but it was just it was interesting. I also thought it was really interesting to have an episode from a man's perspective.
Yeah, because obviously this is a man's world at the minute, but we've been following it from the women at every point.
Yeah, and obviously that makes sense. It's more their story, and they are the main victims in this. But I like this, that we have an episode focusing from a man who is also, the idea that, not every man in the country's went, oh, this is nice, I like this, oh, aye, Handmaids and...
The ones who remained normal, shall we say.
Yeah, didn't turn into fascist dickheads, maybe is another way of putting it.
Sure.
I know, obviously there's varying degrees. There's some people who are relishing in it, there's some people who, like Nick, who seem to have just kind of adapted for their own survival.
Yeah, and there's clearly some who are doing it out of fear because what can they do from their perspective?
Again, there's a lot of parallels. You look at Nazi Germany, you look at the different people there was people who like loved that time period and loved having the power and felt important. And there were some scared.
Who were conscripted into it. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah, they were scared about it. Yeah, but it was this idea of just this different perspective, and then this idea that we see this band of like survivors who like take him in and attend to his gunshot, and we meet these characters and we're like, oh, is this going to be like this, And because we were thinking, is he part of the resistance? And it turns out he's not quite, at least not yet. Like he is more just a sort of refugee in Canada. We find out there's a little America in Toronto, which I thought was really funny. And he's good friends with the one other survivor, because a lot of the other people who help him, and it's quite sad actually, because I think they do a really good job in a few scenes of making us care about these various, there's a gay guy, a nun, and the main woman, what's her name? Zoe. That's her name.
Yes.
And like they do a good job of making, because Zoe's the one who convinces him. She takes him into like a church and says, "Look," and it's like just tons of bodies hung because they were hiding fertile women, and it's just like she convinces him, "No, like you cannot help her. If you try and go back and try and like be a hero right now, you will just die."
Yeah,
and that will not help
this is all that's left for you.
Yeah. And so when she like gets shot as they're leaving on this boat, it's like really upset. And the only one that survives with them is a girl named Erin who doesn't speak. She's mute. And has been mute since this group of people found her. But we see then, like, it cuts 3 years later to present day, which again gives us the time period, because we were questioning, like, how long has it been since she was taken?
Yeah, so 3 years.
And 3 years.
And we can pretty much place her daughter's age, so we can kind of, place a lot of it now.
Yeah, because they also mentioned she's 31 in present day. That's what the woman at the end said.
No, yeah, you're right.
I don't know, the government official?
I was thinking government official.
Yeah.
She kind of has that air to her, doesn't she?
Yeah. Also, again, I love that final sort of few minutes because, Little America, they establish that they've got an apartment because they talk about it. And you in a couple of exchanges of dialogue, you get how close these two are now, where he's like looking after her because it's like, oh yeah, the heating's back on, and she immediately starts to move, and he's like, no, you're not using this as an excuse to hide inside all day.
Yeah, and you kind of get this idea, yes, he still loves his wife, obviously, but he's, to a degree, moved on. Like, he's assumed she was dead.
Oh, yeah, you get that sense, because when he gets the note, when he gets the letter, he starts crying. And his acting is actually phenomenal, because the final shot, it intercuts with her, obviously, when she's reading out what it said, but his acting in that final shot is just a close-up. And again, it's that same thing where he's so, like, the rest of the world's faded away, it's just him, that's why it's a close-up. And it's also kind of, it's shaky, handheld, occasionally getting out of focus, it's, again, emulating his emotions perfectly. But what I love about his acting in that scene is that there's, like, shock, and then it turns to happiness, and then it turns to sadness as he realises what she's going through. It's like
he's like laughing and crying at the same moment, isn't he?
He's laughing because she's alive, and that makes him happy. And then it turns to sadness and tears because he realises his wife is being raped systematically.
Yeah, and he's probably going, I abandoned her there for 3 years that she's been living this now, and he didn't try and do anything.
And I don't think anyone would blame him, though, because we see what he goes through, we see what he tries.
Oh, of course.
Like, he is... And I think that what I like about this is, like, he like, everyone's a victim here. Absolutely everyone's. You could argue, obviously, some more than others, certainly, but, like, you know, anyone who disagrees with this society has been hung. Like, they're being killed or made an example of. It's like just complete fear.
Yeah.
And this whole, you know, little America, amusing
Like
in and of
this
itself.
little safe haven. Do you know, I noticed because I think we heard a long time ago how there was only two stars left on the flag.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the flags in the background. The stars are all still there, but only two of them are filled in.
Ah, I get it. The idea that maybe they could get them back. Like,
Yeah, they still exist, but they're not whole.
yeah. That's interesting. And obviously you see him walking through the halls of this government building, and it's just like all the photos of the missing people or people who they hope to get back.
Yeah.
So, no, and actually another little detail I liked, again with the mythology, I liked that Luke and the other, like, this little band of survivors only heard rumours about what was happening, like, you know, the Handmaid stuff. They didn't really know what the system was yet. They were just kind of like, oh, they were you know, trying to like track down fertile women. They were trying to get a hold of them. They didn't really know what they were doing yet.
Yeah, it just shows you how new and how quickly this sprung up.
Yeah. But I like that aspect of it, the rumours and, you know, what is this? But no, I thought it was a very interesting episode in that point, and I thought Luke as well. Now that we know he's alive and that he's going to be a main character that we maybe don't see too often, but I think when we do see him, it'll be a big deal.
Yeah, he's been reestablished as a major player in the game.
Yeah, and obviously we're getting him a lot in flashbacks up until now, but I think having an episode from his perspective sets him up as this main character where we care about him. He goes through all this because everything's from his perspective in this. When it goes to the flashbacks, and it's, you know, the moments where the friendly neighbor comes by, and you think, oh wait, is he? Because obviously they've escaped to this house in the middle of nowhere where they're presumably safe for now. Yeah. And this neighbor comes by, and they're like, oh, we need to leave because he might actually be like, you know, going back to, you know, the Nazi Germany, like the idea of someone who's just going to blow the whistle immediately.
Yeah, it could be an informant just because it's to his benefit.
Yeah, and it turns out he's not. It actually, he comes back later on, and it turns out no, he's like, no, the guy who helped you's dead. If you make a run for it, you might.
Yeah, I've got someone on the border waiting for you.
Yeah, and obviously that leads into where it lines up with the first episode in the flashbacks. Yeah. But no, I thought this was good stuff. I think it was a very big, like I've said it before, but it was a very big mythological episode where it builds it builds the world for us. I feel like I've got a much better sense of what this place is now.
Yeah, because so much of it we spent in the one town, you know, like the one little, you know, most of it's been in like one house.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh no, we're seeing different countries in this. We're really getting a sense of it. Obviously, last episode we got, okay, there's people from Mexico, and we get, okay, they've got their problems, stuff's going on there. Now we see a bit in Canada. It's like, okay, we're putting some context into the world as a whole.
But again, it works really well from a focus point of view because when we're off-grid, everything is just, it's almost like that cone she's wearing is actually like a filmmaking device where everything is in this little narrow view. It's everything that's around her and nothing else.
Yeah. She can't see the bigger picture. She can only see what's in her vision. Yeah.
So, but the idea that we now have a character that we can cut to who does have more knowledge, who does see more of this stuff elsewhere. Yeah. Because, when it said 3 years later, then it said Little America, Toronto, Canada, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And, no. And again, teasing me with the snow, you bastards.
I know.
God damn it.
I've been thinking about this show a lot this week because, we kind of learned how this went down. There was these terrorist attacks, and then there was, the soldiers were deployed to the streets. And obviously this past week we had the Manchester in the UK happened, and the response to that was, let's put soldiers on the streets. And obviously I'm not jumping to conclusions, but this was just, as I was reading the news, I was like, this was just in my mind because obviously I've been watching these past few weeks.
Yeah. I wouldn't jump to. Don't get me wrong, though. I do think a lot of this show is a warning. It's like pay attention to what's going on.
That's it, isn't it? It's like, oh man, there are legitimate threats, but if you're not careful, this is what happens. And you just look at this, and I'm going, people need to be careful.
Sure. You ended this on I mean, not that this is a cheery conversation typically, because the show is such a heavy topic, but you just brought it into the real world, and I think made us all
I
depressed.
did, and I think, but that's kind of what this show is trying to do. It's trying to be relevant to the. I mean, it's not trying to be relevant to the real world. It is relevant to the real world, and it's kind of sad that this story from the 80s is so relevant today.
Oh, it's the same because we've been working our way through Star Trek, and they do it.
Yeah.
They do episodes about race and stuff like that, and it's like this is shocking how relevant this still is.
Exactly, and it's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, nearly 60 years later, and episodes of Star Trek are still making points that, on a large scale, people still seem to have not quite grasped, and it's just. What's it going to take? Movies and TV especially right now seems to be doing so much to, like...
Well, I mean, that's it throughout history, isn't it? Art comes from places of pain, and often it is a reflection of what's going on in the world at that time.
But I feel like just in the last couple of years, I feel like it's more so than it has been throughout most of my life, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like,
I agree with that.
I'm noticing a lot more allegories, a lot more, political messaging, a lot of things. It's like,
and
think
some of
about
it,
this.
I think it's maybe we're just more aware and we're noticing it more. But some of them are definitely, they're actively trying harder and going, no, this is the point of this.
Yeah, I do think that's part of it. I do think when you're a kid, when you're even a teenager, I don't think you start noticing this kind of thing until you're maybe hitting your 20s, because you're just not thinking about the world that way. But I think it helps, certainly. I think the more people who are a bit younger growing up watching stuff with positive messaging. I think like Zootopia, for example, is an animated movie that I think does a lot for shaping how a kid thinks about certain issues.
I agree, because obviously it boils down race and pretty much every minority of any kind that you want to think of, and boils them down into cute furry animals. But it's digestible for a kid, but the message is still there.
Yeah, the point is still there. Yeah. And you hope it gets through.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, okay, we went on a really weird, serious tangent there at the end, but that is The Handmaid's Tale, episode 7. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments. Like, subscribe, get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Individual Twitters are on the screen. If you want to support the channel, head over to MailedFuzz TV on patreon.com, and you can see what some bonuses are over there. But otherwise, guys, that's us. So thank you once again for watching. Have you got any vanilla?